Welcome back to some more Corpse Body Book of Shadows. Today we're gonna start playing the final episode, Tooth. Hopefully you do enjoy. Anyway, let's play.
Oi, 生徒会長。明日だぞ。
ん？何がだ？
蹴り入れていい？
却下。何があるんだ明日。こら！生徒会室で暴力行為は禁則と定めだろう。
知るもんか。忘れてる方が悪いもん。
I would kick her back, I'm just saying.
やめな。こちらに非があるなら謝罪する。まず聞こうじゃないか。
この部屋の徹底掃除だよ。見てこれ。何これ。片付けろっつうの。何この玉入れのやつじゃん。体育祭いつだったよ。
ああ、そういえばそんなことを言っていたか。一体
忘れてたでしょ。
いや、記憶はしていた。僕も美月の意向には。
普通に喋れ。
ああ、忘れてたさ。俺だっていろいろ考えることがあって忙しかったんだよ。会長だからって何でもかんでもみんな俺んとこ持ってくるしさ。悪かったな。
許す。
なんだ
初期としての進言です。たまには言い訳くらいした方がいいよ。男らしい生徒会長もかっこいいけどさ。
美月
だが戦線離脱は許さないからな。逃げられると思うなよ。
わかった。
わかんねえやつだな、智弘。ミンコは俺の嫁どっつってんだろ。
いや、譲らないぞ。涼介にはナナさんって人がいるだろ。二股とかマジないわ。
バカ、3人からモテて初めてリア充だろ。上皇。
楽しそうだねそれ。ゲーム？
おお、山本、お前もやる？タッチペンでグリグリしてチューするゲーム。女の子3人と付き合えるぜ。
何？
ハマるのはいいけど一人に絞れ。
言って。
あんたら明日のこと覚えてるんだろうね。
I had no idea any of this was going on in the student council room that day. I had other things on my mind, especially a certain boy. After school. My name is Toko Kiraisaki. I'd been waffling for quite some time on whether or not to say anything, but finally I decided to bite the bullet and ask his best friend, Kurosaki.
ねえねえ、ゆうやってさ、彼女いるの？
あ、いや、あいつ今フリーだと思うよ。なんで？
狙っちゃおっかななんて。
マジ？おお、いいじゃん、応援するよ。でもあいつな、女の子といてもいっつもつまんなそうにしてるから、付き合えても切り先があんまり楽しくないかもしれない。
でも確かにゆうやってモテる割に手とか全然出してこないって女子はみんな言ってるな。
それって悪い印象？
クリーンなイメージ。
This was Kanosuke Karosaki. Kanosuke Karosaki, what a name, dude. Who'd known Yuya Kazami, aka the boy that I liked, pretty much all his life. I figured I'd come to him for all information I needed in my conquest, since I was pretty much guaranteed to know Yuya's dating history. And so far, things seem to be going really well. I mean, not only did I confirm Yuya wasn't seeing anyone, but I got his best friend blessing too. And confirmed that he really wasn't the showy, obnoxious cool guy type. Hehe. That suited me just fine. Kurosaki was understandably rather startled by the extraordinary agitated female voice and suddenly rang out from behind his head. But that's Hal girl Mitsuki for you, huh? She was standing in the classroom doorway, arms folded across her chest, looking like some angry deity about to cast judgment down upon the world. And she had that deathly gleam in her eyes, the one that could fell the mightiest warrior before he even had a chance to draw his sword.
今日は生徒会室の徹底掃除するから来なさいって言ったでしょ。
いや、俺今日部活だって言ったじゃん。おいフクロイな。
逆らうな。もう無理だ。
Yeah, this was definitely Hal Girl's work. All the complexation was gone from Fukuroi's face. He was a man with a demon on his back. Whip at the ready, fully prepared to bring divine punishment upon all who oppose her. He was right. It was easier just to give in.
面白そう。私も行く。おお、手は多いほど良いぞよ。
Mitsuki then grabbed the nape of Kurosaki's neck and began dragging him out to the door in decidedly painful-looking manner. He was like a teary-eyed chick caught in the talons of a bird of prey, struggling in vain as he was being carried off to meet his grisly end.
俺生徒会じゃないのに。
I just loved watching those boys interact with Hal Girl Mitsuki. I couldn't wait to see more. I didn't even care if I had to clean in order to do it. I was a volunteer after all, so I was pretty much off of the hook here. I couldn't follow them at my own pace. No dragging for me. As soon as we left the classroom, though, we ran into Yuya. Or rather, I did. As in, I literally ran into him. I wasn't watching where I was going, and wound up slamming into him so hard that I fell over. Immediately, he reached out his hand and helped me up and asked if I was alright. Now, that's a white knight if I ever seen one. What a fun evening this would be. I imagined it ending with me laying in bed, dreaming of Yuya's perfect face, inching ever closer to mine. But instead, we were in corpse body and I was dragged around, seeing blood and bodies everywhere. Right? Close enough?
大丈夫、トコ。いいよ、全部吐いちゃったら楽になるよ。
Episode 7, Tooth. It can't be. But it is. What it is.
どう？楽になった気がする。よかった。どうする？みんなのところに戻る？うん。
The stall door seems to be stuck and absolutely will not open anymore. But I was just in there. Maybe the lock somehow jammed when I left. Even with the knob turned at a full blast, there's no water coming through these pipes anymore. Just a mirror, but it's too cloudy to make out much detail. For some reason, the air around the spot feels unnaturally chilled. It would probably be best to keep our distance. Just a half decomposed corpse. Unfortunately, it's too far gone to determine the age or gender, but there's still a fully intact student ID name tag launched between two bones, identifying these as the remains of a teenage girl. Komashiro Trade School, Tomomi Morin Naga. Nailed it.
Ryosuke! 痛いか？
膝と大腿部の関節を縛った。出血は抑えられるはずだ。
足も持ってきてるから心配するな。
どこ？
We were in an old-fashioned, run-down, and probably condemned school building. None of us knew how we got here, nor even where here was. I just emerged from the schoolgirl's room with Emi after losing my lunch, where Yuya, Owaka, Satayama, and Shimada were waiting. The whole hallway was an absolute bloodbath after what had happened. Poor Tayama walked into some kind of bloody trap, and half his right leg was lopped off from the knee down. It took It looked excruciating. How is somebody supposed to handle a situation like this? Why did this have to happen at all?
なんなんだよこの学校。なんで罠とか仕掛けてあるんだ。つうかどこだよここ。ふざけんなよ。
静かにしてよ。涼介大怪我してんだぞ。
Keep quiet, he's badly injured, and he screams at the top of his lungs.
あ？なんだおい。やんのかこれ。やめて。
They would be the worst, like, counselors hiding from a killer. Like, honestly. I would be so quiet, you wouldn't even know I was there. Like, honestly, I would just be walking slowly, tiptoeing everywhere. Because, like, one mistake could cost you everything. This is what tagging along with Mitsuki and the others got me. I thought I was going to be a laugh riot. And at first, it was great. We all went to the student council room where we met up with Katayama, Shimada, and Emi, and started cleaning and goofing around. And then when we were done, Emi suggested we all try this new charm she discovered on the internet. She's nuts for that kind of stuff. She took out the simple white paper doll, and we were all kind of fascinated. So we did as we were instructed, and then suddenly everything went dark. There was a violent shaking, and then we were here in this old schoolhouse. No explanation.
とにかく出ようよここ。みんなで一緒にここを出よう。玄関に行こう。
You see, this is a good example for don't try everything or anything you see online. Just be enjoying life, you know?
片山は
俺が背負う。
Yuya.
Yuya was so kind. You can always count on the boys in times like these. Still, there was a potential problem with this course of action.
待ってでも今みたいな罠とかさあったら危ないよ人を背負ってたらとっさに動けないしだけどだからまずは外までの道の安全を確保してから片山くんを連れに戻ってきた方がいいと思うんだ
賛成だ。
そっか
涼介大丈夫だぞお前を置いてったりしないな。
Okawa was in the state of absolute panic. He just kept muttering to himself at Katayama's inside. The two of them had always been extremely close. It's only natural he'd be worried, though his concern kind of bordered on obsession.
でもじゃあ誰が行くの通路を歩いてるだけでいきなり足が切り飛ばされるんだよ。
お前今玄関行こうっつったじゃねえか。行ってこいよ。
Shimida practically spit his answer at her. I hate people like him. Sure, he had a pretty face. That's basically all he had, though. People like him pose as models in men's journals, but they're not good for much else. He got a lot of girls too, but I'm not one of them. I could never get past his awful attitude. It's such a huge turn-off for me when guys act that way. Not that I don't admire speaking with confidence and force. I try to do it myself whenever I can. But there is a difference between speaking forcefully and speaking in a way that belittles others. There we go. Shimida was basically just cold and uncaring.
私が行くよ言い出すっぺだしどこ
俺も行こう。
ゆうや
What a difference. Like night and day, kind of thoughtful people like him don't make flippant remarks. They just man up and get stuff done. I was crushing on him harder than ever, because now, not only did I think he was both cool and hot, I also gained a ton of more respect for him.
大人数で行く必要はない。行くならあと一人くらいだ。どうする？
Dead silence, no volunteers, huh? Everybody just looked at one another, then looked away as they were ashamed of themselves.
俺はどうしよう涼介寂しいよな。
He was frantically shifting his gaze from one person to another. I'd never seen him so on edge before. Finally, the silence was broken by a loud, shrill male voice. Definitely not whom I would have picked.
くそ、俺が言ってやるよ。お前はここにいろ。
いいの女子の桐崎さんが行くって。
俺が行く。ヘタレはここで待ってろ。邪魔になる。
分かった。
じゃあ行こう急がないと片山マジで危ないし京子気をつけてね
Was I scared? You bet I was scared. But in a situation like this, everybody has to work together. And as long as I had any willpower left in me, I wasn't about to give up. Plus, it didn't hurt that Yuka was with me, so I knew everything was going to turn out just fine. Are you sure about that? We have to get out of here. Run, Forest. I think we go all the way down. I think we have to stop in front of the nurse hall. Right here. Okay, it automatically stops. Nice. The word infirmary was written on the plate above the door. Somehow the room just felt like it would be deserted. I was oddly confident about that. Not sure why I felt that way, to be honest, but for good measure, I shouted, "Is everybody in there?" We still hadn't found a Mitsuki, after all. I didn't hear her call back, though, so really, we had no business in this room whatsoever. Wait, was that a key sticking out of the lock? Who would have locked the door? But who left the key? What would be the point?
お、なんだこれ。扉に鍵刺さってるぜ。
何してんの？
中に化け物でもいたら大変だろ。出てこれないようにしてやった。
その鍵どうするのよ。
俺が持っとくよっと。
危ないな、投げないでよ。
キャッチうめえだろ。まだ高く投げられるぜ。
もう。
Pain in the ass. Shimira was such a pain in the ass. I really couldn't stand the guy. When he volunteered, I would have said I stay then. Right? I just be away from this guy at all times. I'd be like, yo, Emmy, let's trade places.
しつこい。分かったからやめて。
ここ天井高えな。よし。ああ、どこ行った？まあいいや。知らね。
And now the infirmary was cut off from us, if we needed it. Brilliant. Isn't that great?
昇降口だ。やった、出られる。
I rushed over to the door, hopeful, yet afraid, knowing it might not open, but praying that the horrid place would show us at least a little mercy. Gingerly, I raised my hand and pushed on it, and it swung open without even the slightest hesitation. It seemed almost too easy. It was unnaturally dark outside, though, and the rain was coming down so hard that it peeked my head out of just a moment and left my uniform completely soaked. Shimira pushed past me, throwing her door open even wider with his usual lack of regard for anyone and anything around him. My clothes went from soaked to drenched in a matter of seconds. If I were to actually walk out into it, I felt like I'd drown.
なんだこりゃ。真っ暗だぞ。森？
ひどい雨。こんな中外に出て行ったら服びしょ濡れになりそう。
そりゃ見てみてえな。
けど外に出られることは分かる。
Anyway.
片山たち連れに戻ろう。
Despite our having found a way out, Yuya's demeanor hadn't changed a bit. He was standing back at the hole, where he could watch over us while we keep an eye out for anyone else who might happen by. The model of maturity. Shimida, on the other hand.
頑張れよ。俺はもう出るぞ。こんなわけわかんねえところとっとと出るに限るぜ。片山のところになんか戻らねえよ。
マジで言ってる？
あー、足りめえだバカ。脳なしから順番に死ぬようになってるんだよ。あんな奴ら放っとけよ。は
あ、びっくり。いいんだこんなやつ。
よう桐崎、お前も来いよ。
The tone of his voice said it all. He'd hit the ultimate low. After abandoning his friends to save his own hide, he was now basically propositioning me.
お前には死んでほしくないんだ。前から大事に思ってたからさ。
Propositioning, there we go. With an obviously rehearsed and truly sickening pickup line. He really was the slime ball to the end. All slime balls. He was a slime ball to the end. All slime balls. Okay.
信じらんない。何お前、こっち見んなよ。
I couldn't believe he had the nerve to pull something like this. I felt like that may have been the first time I'd ever truly yelled at someone. I was absolutely livid. And he wasn't even done. No. He still had plenty of salt left to throw in the wound.
うるせえブス、調子乗ってんなよ。せっかく行かせてやろうと思ったのによ。後悔しろや。
死ねえ。こいつマジ切れる。行こう、ゆうや。
My head was swimming. I was scared. I was angry. I was sad. Every negative emotion brought to the forefront. And every positive emotion pushed away. I didn't look back. I just turned away from Shimada, walked over to Yaya's side, and continued past him into the hallway. Yuya, had been watching all of this unfold from the other side of the room, and for a moment, he just stood there, staring blankly at Shimada.
あ？何見てんだよ。消えろよ、能面野郎。
Shimada then drew a large knife from his breast pocket. How big is his pocket, dude? Its tip struggled to glisten in the dull light of the room, but it did ultimately succeed. He began waving it around like a dumbass, probably thinking it made him look more menacing.
見ろよこれ。昨日買ったんだよ。使えそうだろ？いろいろ。
お前は本当に面白いな。
あいつ女10人くらいいるんだよ。信じられる？何が大事に思ってたよ。どんだけ女の子バカにしてんの？マジ許せない。
Bro, looks can get you so far with anyone, like not even joking. I was indignant. Indignant. Goodness. I was fuming. I just kept cursing and mumbling as if I fast walked back into the 3rd floor to meet up with the others. And all the while, Yuya was keeping pace with me, saying nothing at all. Always the model of maturity, always even-tempered. He really was like a rock, or maybe he found my mutterings annoying and was just keeping quiet so I'd do the same. I didn't like the possibility one bit. So I mentally slapped myself on the cheek, forced positivity in my voice, and tried to engage with him. Cheery batter.
ゆうやはその点誠実だよね。女の子傷つけたこと一回もないでしょ。超モテるのに悪い噂聞いたことないもん。ある意味すごいよ。
I looked at him square in the eyes, as if asking him, "Isn't that right?" And for a moment his eyes did meet mine. But then they were right back to the hole. Was he not used to receiving compliments from women? That seemed hard to believe.
よくわからない。
What a cute, innocent response. I must have come across the bipolar to him or something. 1 second I tried to lighten the mood with small talk or compliments. And then I'd start to feel scared of the school again, or angry at Shimada, or sad for Katayama. My mind just couldn't make up its mind what to feel.
今の声下の階だ。
Mitsuki's voice echoed from below, but our friends were waiting for us above. For a moment, I wasn't sure which direction to go, but only for a moment. The fact is, our friends were very, very close. So close that that it would be foolish not to tell them what was going on before chasing after Mitsuki.
急ごう。エミや片山たち連れてみんなで下に行こうよ。
Yuya just nodded and began running up the stairs, and I was right behind him.
お待たせ。出口見つかったよ。さあ、みんな行こう。
I was out of breath, staring down the ground and taking what I assumed would be 3 very attentive friends. But then I looked up. They were all there, but there was no immediacy, no urgency on anyone's face. Emi and Okowa weren't even looking at me, nor at Yuya, but at Katayama. They were fixated on his face, and each bore a sad, hopeless, empty expression. And they certainly weren't about to get moving. There was a general heaviness in the air. Something was very wrong. I gently reached out the hand and touched Emi's shoulder.
どうしたの？どこ？ダメ。片山くん、どんどん衰弱してる。
陽介喋らなくなったよ。どうしよう。
Emi's eyes were filled with tears. Owaka, too, was cradling Yatama's head and looked like he'd been crying this whole time. His eyes were bright red and his nose was running. Yaya's still saying nothing, just walked over to Yatayama's side, bent down and began examining his wound.
ゆうや
急いだ方がいい。
The four of us silently but unanimously agreed that our best course of action is to pick up Yatayama and bring him to our next exit, we discovered. And we had to be very, very quick about it, or he really would die. I could tell just by looking at him that his time was almost up. So I think this was the guy that died at the entrance, the body we found.
背負える
The guy that kept looking at it and fascinated about his still bloody corpse, right?
あ、背に乗せるのを手伝ってくれ。
涼介頑張れみんなが助けてくれるぞ
As this was all going on, I had that nagging feeling like I was forgetting something. Of course, Mitsuki. We had to go find her. We couldn't just leave her behind after all.
ゆうやどうしよう私2階ちょっと見てきていい美月の声が気になるんだ遠くに行っちゃったら
He didn't even have to say anything at this time. His eyes told me the whole story. I got it. I know I can trust you with this task, they said. And that was enough for me. I shot off down the hole like a bullet. I was determined to find Mitsuki and rejoin everyone en route. I hurried down the second floor, but Mitsuki's voice was coming from even further down. I'd have to keep going to the first floor, ahead of the others. Searching mode of doom. So let's go, baby. We have to get out of here.
さっき美月の声が聞こえた場所から考えるとこれ以上先だと聞こえないよね戻ってみよう
We should go back. If I kept running in circles like this, I'd never find her. I was in a state of panic, and I was allowing it to shear my path. Frustrated with the situation, and with myself for choosing to give up and head back empty-handed, I forced myself to stop and turn. I was going to do what I should have done in the first place, call out Mitsuki's name, everything I had in me, and hope she responds.
美月どこみんないるよ
No answer. Just the cold, lonely sound of rain and wind bearing down on the cold, dilapidated building. This may have been a fairly large school, but the sound traveled well in here. If she were anywhere in the hallway, I'm sure she would have heard me. And if she were just here only minutes ago, she definitely should have been around now. Could something have happened to her?
美月
「 guess we're gonna head back now. Is that a ghost? Okay, I guess we're gonna just head back here. Since we can't move forward, we need to go back. Okay, we're just gonna leave our teammates. Bye, have a great time. What the hell was that? That just appeared in front of me. From the looks of it, you're another victim dragged here against your will, no? Well, I'll tell you now. There's no escape from this place or from this school. There is nothing to be gained here but despair. Though, if you've got an iron will, you might be able to survive for a little while at least. Here, you should have this. It'll help you. It will help to keep the wandering spirits at bay. Though, it only works once. So, take it and get it out there and fight like hell. Stay alive as long as you possibly can. The spirit vanished, but laying on the floor below it was a gemstone, especially a violet-colored gemstone, probably an amethyst. So I can use this to keep the wandering spirits at bay one time, huh? I guess he meant full body ones, or it would have kept him at bay too. Either way, with this gem, I felt like I could actually go back to my friends safely. I was as hopeful as one could expect, all things considered. Of course, he said that there was no escape from here, but it was my prerogative to believe what I wanted to believe and ignore what I wanted to ignore. They could have just said, but I have selective hearing, like it's the same thing. I know a lot of people, including myself as well. I have a very selective hearing. It appears to be a ghost of a young boy. Use. I held my amethyst in front of me and approached the spirit. And incredibly, it actually worked. Both the ghost and the gem faded and disappeared. The stairwell was now free to be traversed. Emi's face absolutely reeked with tears, and she was shaking her head violently. She wanted to tell me something, but the words just weren't coming. I had a really bad feeling about this. I ran past her to the bathrooms, to where Yama was being lifted into Yuya's shoulders, and then I left. Why? Yatayama's back on the floor, right where we'd set him down when his whole ordeal began. Why wasn't he on Yoyo's shoulders? Yuya's shoulders. What was going on? I had an inkling, but I didn't want to believe it, so I pushed it all to my mind.
みんな何してるの？早く片山連れてかなきゃ。間に合わなかったよ。
Did he bleed to death or what killed him? Like, I don't get this.
どこが降りた後、
Like, sure, he lost his leg, but he could just
声を上げて。
wrap it up, dude. I'm pretty sure someone has a belt. I don't know what else to say. A person had just died, and not some stranger, but a person I knew, a friend. It was the strangest feeling. I kept looking at him and thinking, is he really dead? Is this really what a person looks like when he dies? Seeing him like that drained every last bit of energy I had in me. I fell to my knees, thoroughly defeated.
大川くん、片山くんから離れないって、どうすればいいの？
Emmy and I couldn't stay near the body. We'd gone down to the second floor, where we picked up a corner and just stood there, trying to recompose ourselves. Yuya's elected to stay with Okoa in the third floor, I guess to try and break him from his shock and help put some distance between him and Katayama. None of this felt real, or maybe I just didn't want it to be real. It was a nightmare. It had to be. I just sit up in my bed, and it would all be over.
してこんなことになっちゃったんだろう。冷めないね。おかしいな。冷めないの。さっきから夢だと思うとしてるんだけど。どこ？
My energy was waning again. I sank to the ground, landing on my knees. Emmy followed my lead and put an arm around me for comfort. A friend had just died. He just died. God, why? Emmy and I looked at each other. We both heard them. Footsteps coming down the hall. It was too dark to make out who it was. But the jade was decidedly male. The two of us slowly and quietly rose our feet, hid around the corner, and peeked out, both terrified and curious at whom or what we might see. There, at the end of the hall, the figure finally came out into view. It was a tallish man, unsteadily teetering as he slowly soared towards us. It was Shimada, drenched from head to toe.
島田くん。
Emmy shot towards, intending to run forward. But I grabbed her arm and held her back without even thinking about it. She turned and looked at me with a puzzled expression.
あいつ、私無理。まさか、なんかされたの？うん。よかった。こんな時だし、起こったことだけでも伝えておかないと。
She looked back at him again as she said this, staring right into my eyes. in an almost disciplinary matter. It was the perfect guilt stare. I couldn't help but succumb to it, feeling bad for not having filled her in about the Shimada incident. Shimada continued his slow, wet walk down the hall. Then, all of a sudden, for no describable reason, he simply fell forward, landing hard on his knees. Something was wrong with him, and while I loathed the man, I didn't want to see him suffer. Emmy and I were both poised to rush to his aid, when other figures randomly began appearing all around him. Figures of children, blue and ethereal, shimmering with their own light. We could barely even see Shimada from our vantage point anymore, as his body was obscured almost completely by the backs of all the giant children, or all the ghost children, sorry. He wasn't moving though, so it didn't seem like they were doing anything to him. But when he wasn't moving at all, which seemed highly suspicious, it occurred to me that maybe we should try to save him. I inched forward. He was still in exactly the same position he had been when he fell to his knees. He literally hadn't moved at all. Was he unconscious? Emmy and I looked at one another and nodded. It was a silent signal to move forward and do whatever we could to help. The children vanished as we approached, revealing a horrific sight. Shimada's stomach had been flayed wide open. He was dead. The knife he'd flaunted earlier was gutting from the wound. It was an almost ceremonial death, like that of a samurai who'd thrown himself on his sword. Yuya, who'd presumably rushed down to see what was wrong, calmly walked over to Shimada's body. He was checking the signs of respiration or pulse. He turned back and faced us again for a moment later. His facial expression said it all. Shimada really was dead. I was beginning to lose it. I just couldn't take it any more of this. My friends and acquaintances were dying, one by one. I guess I should say had died, but it didn't seem like it was over. Not by a long shot. Hell, this was doing more than trying. It actually already succeeded twice. I was scared. I was paranoid. I was shaking and crying and screaming inside. I was deathly afraid that something else would show up, and then it did. It was a little girl in a red dress standing between us and the third floor staircase. I couldn't make out the expression on her face though. Her bangs, but I could literally feel the hatred in her eyes, and she stared into our souls. She then she turned around and slid up the staircase into the third floor hallway. Emmy was turned the other way, so she hadn't seen the girl at all. She eventually followed our gazes, but by the time the girl was gone, she looked confused. That particular apparition looked a lot different from the other ghosts I'd seen, but there was still no doubt in my mind she was definitely a ghost.
小川君は連れてこようよ。とにかく出なきゃ。この学校から私呼んでくる。
待て。
ゆうや、私も。
危険だ。ここで待っていろ。
Dangerous? Well, that is the direction of the girl in the red dress went, and I guess Yuya didn't want me to be put in harm's way. I nodded and watched his back recede into the darkness as he chased after Emmy. What was going on? Why is Emmy screaming? I could hear voices now. Emmy and Okawa were having a heated argument.
こいつを置いていけないだろう。早く病院へ連れて行かなきゃ。もう死んでるわ。死んでない。死んでない。死んでないんだ。
But he is. Leave him and run, or we'll get caught. That ghost girl must have been pursuing them.
大変だ。行かなきゃ。
Are you sure you have to go help them?
何？
人殺し！
Katayama's body was sprawled unceremoniously on the landing halfway up the third floor, along with Okawa. At the top of the stairs stood Emmy, and in front of her, Yuya, with an imposing skull on his face. I didn't understand any of this. What had just happened? Emmy let out another scream and came running towards me down the stairs. Okawa then seemed as if he'd fallen down and broken his arm. He was lopsidedly scrolling towards me. It was almost as if he were trying to distance himself from Yuya. Murderer. I ran to the base of the stairs to meet up with Emmy. I needed some sort of context here.
Emmy! 何？どうしたの？
逃げろ！逃げろ！殺されるぞ！
I glanced over at Yuya, but his face was shrouded in darkness. I couldn't make out any expression at all. Okawa seemed to have reached his breaking point. He shot his feet and took off behind me toward the second floor as fast as he could. Yuya kicked Okawa down the stairs. Why?
嘘でしょ。
Slowly, he walked down the landing. He was neither concerned nor scornful. His face was a blank slate. As soon as he reached my level, he bent down and began fiddling with Katayama's body, raising the arms and then letting drop, wiping blood from the ears and nose, then looking at it as if suddenly a specimen under a microscope. What the hell? He was enjoying this? I finally got to see the emotion written clearly on his face, and it was elation? How was this not some crazy dream? Tears began spilling from my eyes like water. I was shocked, confused, and I don't even know what else. You guys, we're gonna actually end the episode here. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, smash that like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.